You're live.
All right, welcome back, everyone. A little after 1:45 on Tuesday. Next order of business is hearing from our friends and the folks who operate the Vermont Veterans Home for an update on how things are going at the facility. We are joined by Melissa Jackson and Steve McClafferty. Good to see the two of you.
Good afternoon. Good to see all of you.
And yeah, welcome. We have the update for us to view here, and yeah, tell us how things are going.
Okay. So I can walk you through the PowerPoint. It's okay.
Oh, please.
All right. So starting on slide 2, just reminding everybody of who we are and why we're here. And it, all starts with a promise. Take care of those who have served our country. It also fulfills the governor's one of the governor's aims of taking care of Vermont's most vulnerable. We refer to ourselves as a home and not an institution. The staff is very tired of me reminding them that we work where our veterans and members live. They do not live where we work. That makes all the difference. So we've been around since 1884. We started as a working farm, which is on slide 4. And we are governed by a board of trustees. 2 of our members are members of your committee, Sandy and Bob. So our home started as a summer home for Trenner Park. And our first resident was admitted in 1887. And at that time, they were called inmates. And we have our records all the way back to our first veteran. And we actually do a lot of genealogy every year. It's interesting. People call and say, hey, I'm doing genealogy on such and such. And a little interesting tidbit is we still have our jail out back. And we have our matron's book. So it's fun when we're having when we think we're having a tough day, we'll crack up the matron's book where they'll talk about a veteran coming back drunk again and having to be locked up, or somebody of importance visiting. And as part of the 250 celebration, we're going to start pulling the good things out of that book and sharing it on our Facebook page. Slide 5 is really important. A lot of people don't understand what is a state veterans home. So a state veterans home is a facility, a nursing home, or a domiciliary. We call it the DOM because no one can say domiciliary, or an adult day center that is owned and operated and managed by state governments. So a DOM is the same as a residential care level 3 if you're talking to somebody from AHS or Dale. We are not part of the VA. Everyone thinks because of the word veteran is in our name, we're part of the VA. As a state veterans home, we receive funding that other nursing homes do not receive. We also provides us access to funding for grant projects for repairs and building that other nursing homes would not receive. So slide 6 talks about who we are today. We take care of veterans, spouses, and Gold Star parents. And right now, federal regulations do not allow us to take care of members of the National Guard unless they have been federally activated, or what we refer to as Title 10. Most of Vermont National Guard members have been federally activated, so they are eligible for our services if they should need them. Unfortunately, the question has come up a lot lately, what about children? We do not and are unable to take care of children of veterans, and we are not able to take care of divorcees of veterans. So we have 130 skilled nursing beds. Right now, our maximum census can be 99. We have a wing, or a neighborhood as we call it, of 30 beds offline. This wing is offline due to the fact that it needs extensive repairs. We've had design work done. We will be speaking about with institutions and BGS about obtaining some funding to have that torn down and rebuilt. Right now, we estimate the rebuilding of that wing is going to be about $49 million. This is where being a state veterans home is important. The VA would pay for 65% of that project, and the state would be responsible for 35%.
I got a hand from Rep. Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Melissa. Michael Morgan. I'm a Vermont National Guard retiree. And just going back to what you said about Guard members, they had to have been activated under Title 10 to be eligible. Did that come from, and maybe if I missed it, I apologize. Does that come from state statute or is that VA regulations? Is it federal or state that's making that prohibitive to take a National Guard?
It's federal.
Guardsman? It's a federal, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's similar language for other things. I assumed that was the case, but just thought I'd ask. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So we have our 8-bed residential care facility, or DOM. Those veterans have a lot more, are far more independent. They can come and go as they please. We have 2 that drive. We have 192 state employees, and then 50 temporary employees. So the temporary employees are like part-time employees. They are our state employees. We also have agency or traveling nurse employees that are not included in this number. We do short-term rehab, long-term rehab, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. We just received some really good news from the VA after almost 5 years of fighting with the VA, as I'll call it. We have now been given the opportunity to apply to what's called Optum. And Optum is the contracted provider for the VA for individuals who receive healthcare services from the VA to be an outpatient provider for veterans who are 70% or more service-connected disabled to provide rehab services. So instead of them having to go to White River Junction or other physical therapy providers in the community, if accepted by Optum, they could come here. So what the nice thing about that is we don't have to provide any more equipment. We don't have to provide any more staff. We have all of that right here. So we're actually using our current resources to generate extra revenue. So I'm working on that application now. We do respite care, hospice and palliative care, and we have guest rooms for family members to stay if they like to be close to their loved one. We used them all during this past weekend with our snowstorm. We had our staff hanging out in them. On slide 7, this is the first of many things I'm so very, very proud of our staff about. We received the National Silver Quality Award from the American Healthcare Association, National Assisted Living Association. This is the middle of a 3-tier quality award. We received the Bronze Award in 2024. We were the only nursing home in the state of Vermont to receive this award. This is a very lengthy application process. The application was close to 40 pages where we have to explain who we are, what we do, our systems, how we maintain quality. And 3 of our staff members went to Las Vegas and accepted the award on our behalf. We are in the process of working towards the Gold Quality Award and will be applying in January of 2027, which is the highest quality award a nursing home can receive nationally. On slide 8, U.S. News and World Report acknowledged us as received one of the best facilities for both long and short-term care for 2026. Again, the only nursing home in the state of Vermont to receive both of these awards. And then we have our pinnacle performance. On the right-hand side of slide 9, you see the various customer service categories. We received best-in-class awards in all of those categories, making us one of the top 15% nursing homes in the country. This data comes directly from Pinnacle reaching out to our families and our residents, asking them about how we're doing in each of these categories. And then monthly, we get the results back. We just got ours for January yesterday. And they ask, how's the food? How's the temperature of the room? How's communication? Those type of things. So I'm very proud of my staff. And then on page 10 is some of the comments that come directly from these surveys. And AIR's appreciated. I love this first one. I appreciate the fact that they walk their walk and they don't even talk about it. I know they communicate and talk with each other. It isn't just about having expensive materials. It's spending the time with them to make them feel they belong and matter. So, which is nice because if you walk into some of the newer nursing homes, you look like you're walking into a 5-star hotel. If you walk into our building, yes, it looks older, but we're spending the money where it matters with the care and making sure our staff has the supplies that they need. So what is not on here is we also were recognized by Google and DizRate as one of the top 10 nursing homes in the state of Vermont. We were ranked number 6. So we have quite the team down here. I'm very, very proud of them. All right. Slide 12 talks about our FY27 budget. 72% of our costs are fixed, which is about $23 million. These are things that we have little or no control over: our salaries and our benefits, our Medicaid tax, utilities, state allocations, and then the things we have little control over, which is our food and our operating budget. And as we all know, everything gets more expensive every day. So I'm very proud of my department heads. They are constantly looking at state contracts. What, is it cheaper to buy paper towels from this vendor, vice that vendor? But it is very, very hard to maintain budgets. Slide 13 is our salaries and benefits. In the past, we've been asked, what is our salary and benefit history been? So all of our employees, because we're always asked, are state employees. So they receive the same benefits as all the other state employees across the state. So that is our history. What's next? And I want to talk about slide 14, which is our general fund history. So if you look from 25 to 26, it looks like our general fund allotment or appropriation went up significantly. So what happened from fiscal year 25 to 26 is from fiscal year 25 and previous, we'd always come back for a budget adjustment because we had what's called Medicaid settlement money. Starting in 26 and moving forward, we are making an estimate of what that Medicaid settlement money is and building it into our budget, and hopefully not having to come back for budget adjustment. So as you can see, FY 26 to 27 shows just that 3% increase in our budget as provided by the instructions from the governor and joint fiscal. So slide 15 talks about how our budget breaks down, with 62% of our budget being salaries and benefits, or a little over $20 million, 1.1 million being state allocations, and then 3% for utilities, and then 2% being bed tax. So even though we have 30 beds offline, we did not turn in our licenses for those beds because I was afraid we would not get them back. So we're still paying bed tax on those licenses, even though the beds are not being used. So almost 33% of our budget is general funds. The remainder comes from Medicare, Medicaid, private funds, and VA funding. We're going to talk about our VA funding on slide 16.
Hold on one second, if we could you explain the bed tax to me a little bit more granularly?
Sure. So all nursing homes, and I believe hospitals, but we'll talk about nursing homes, pay what's called a Medicaid bed tax to the state for every bed that is Medicaid certified. So all of our beds are Medicaid certified. Mm-hmm. So you pay a Medicaid bed tax. And my understanding is we pay that tax, and then the state is able to leverage federal funding based on that money. So but ours is like a little over, I flipped it back, sorry.
It's a little bit over $4,400 per bed.
Right. So the state gets a certain amount of matching funds from our $639,000 from the federal government that they can use in addition to money.
But you're still paying the bed tax on the portion of the facility that's not in rotation right now because it's in a decrepit state while you wait for the renovation money. So you're circulating this bed tax. Why would you?
So
So you would have to like reapply if you were to like pull that out of the mix, and then that's probably its own bureaucratic
Yeah.
line to untwangle. Yes.
So up until recently, and I will reach out and find out, you always had to go through the Green Mountain Care Board if we were doing construction projects, over, what was it, $500,000? I can't remember the number now. But when you want new nursing home beds, in the past, we'd have to go through the Green Mountain Care Board. So I have to find out if the change also applies to beds. I know there's nursing home closing now, so there may not be necessarily a risk of us not getting the licenses back. In the past, if you gave away your licenses, there was no guarantee you'd get them back. So
You're just better served paying it for the dormant space to retain it. So when I got you on the gymnastics, it just seems so like process to the process, right? Brett Hooper of Burlington.
Melissa, do you know how much that $639,000 is leveraged by the state to get what amount?
I believe they leverage all of it. I don't know what percentage it's leveraged at. I'm quite sure AHS can give you the direct, the exact figures.
Better be able to stick it bill to waive it for.
And with the recent changes with the big, beautiful bill, I know some of that has changed. So I'm not exactly sure.
Noted. Anything else for Melissa while we got a pause button on the slides right now? Nope. All right. Thank you for that. That adds a lot of clarity to. No, thank you for educating us.
You're welcome. So we receive VA reimbursement under two categories. So VA per diem, or the basic per diem, is paid to each veteran that is less than 70% service connected, and that's a daily rate of $146.98 for the nursing home and $63.26 for the domiciliary. And then the remainder of their cost of their care is paid by Medicare and Medicaid or private pay or long-term care insurance. This is nice when someone is a private pay veteran because it's like a little bit of a discount for them, helps offset the cost, makes us a little bit cheaper than the nursing home down the road. If they're a full cost of care veteran, this just went up. I used to know it like off the back of my head because it was $555.55. What is it now, Stephen? I forget.
That is a very convenient number.
Oh, there you go.
$567.
No, it's $567. I'll remember that now.
Mhm.
So this $567 is an all-inclusive rate. So it's room, board, medications, medical supplies, physician visits, everything. So one of the biggest hindrances in us admitting veterans who are 70% or more service-connected disabled are medications, especially veterans who are on oral chemotherapy medications. We've turned down veterans who are on oral chemotherapy medications that are $30,000 and $40,000 and $50,000 a month. Because if you do the math, it's a losing situation. Interestingly, the VA does contract with some private for-profit homes in the community, and their agreements allow for these private homes to receive reimbursement for medications that are 8.5% of their daily rate. So they're getting reimbursed for these very expensive oral chemo medications where we are not. So the National Association of State Veterans Home has legislation pending at the national level to change that. Hopefully that will get passed, so we will also have that same benefit. So it's, when you don't have someone admitted, you can say no, but you really can't kick somebody out if they're here and they suddenly have to go on this oral chemotherapy medication. So that is a big concern. Another concern we're seeing nationwide is a big shift in what the VA used to pay and that they're pushing off on state veterans homes. So if you're a veteran in the community and you need dental care, they would pay for it. If you needed a custom wheelchair, they would pay for it. What we're seeing on the West Coast, and everything on the West Coast eventually filters this way, is they're now telling state veterans homes they have to pay for that. A custom wheelchair can easily go anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. So again, the National Association of State Veterans Homes is working on legislation to say, what is the deal? These are veterans. These veterans earn these benefits. They shouldn't be losing them because they're coming to our setting, nor should we as the facility have to pay for those. So that's something we're monitoring very closely. So for FY 27, we anticipate that we're going to be receiving about $8.6 million from the VA. Slide 18 talks about how that breaks down. About $2.4 million in the VA stipend, about $161,000 for the DOM, and then a little over $6 million for our service-connected veterans. So slide 28 talks about what our current reimbursement rates are. We will be meeting with the Board of Trustees the second Wednesday of February, and we'll be making a request to increase the private rates slightly. That only impacts those very few that do our private pay, but it's time to do that. Our Vermont Medicaid rate is an interim rate. When we do our annual cost report, then they provide the actual difference between that rate and our actual rate. What was our settlement this past year? It was over $700 per day, correct, Stephen?
It was about $760.
So we're anticipating for FY 27 that the Medicaid settlement rate will be about $3.7 million. And that's been already built into the budget. Slide 20 talks about who lives here. Our veterans are about 81 years of age. Our youngest is 55 and our oldest is 98. We're still predominantly male, 18 females, 83 veterans, including 3 women. We still have 1 World War II veteran with us. We are predominantly Vietnam vets at this time. We still have the challenges of higher acuity needs, specifically around mental health, PTSD, substance abuse. The biggest challenge for us is when we have veterans with memory care, dementia, and PTSD, and suddenly have an acute onset of behaviors. There is really no place for them to go for treatment. They can't go to an inpatient psychiatric care center because they can't participate in the environment, or the environment's not secured, so they won't wander away. Unfortunately, although not recently, in the past, we've had veterans in emergency rooms for long periods of time while we've tried to find them placement. So I am happy to report that, in the past, I've said we've had a veteran on one-on-one for 24/7, where there's a staff member with them literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years. Now we're using it intermittently. Our staff has gotten very good at identifying when someone's getting ready to have a crisis or changing their environment so that we only need one-on-one periodically. So our other major challenge is obviously staffing. I'm happy to report that this time last year, we were using over 50% of our staff was agency staff. We were down to a little less than 48%. But here we are. What the average hourly rate is. So on the top is our staff with benefits. And then on the bottom is what we pay an agency staff member. So we are continuing to pick away at hiring staff. Sarah Sigsbury joined us as our new DNS in July. She was our admissions nurse, and she has been phenomenal in terms of hiring. She's hired almost 16 new staff members in the nursing department. That's like her primary job. She's in checking to see when the new applications are in. So that's both full and part-time. So she has been working very hard to hire and fill positions. We've also had great success with our LNA classes. We've had 2 classes in 2025. We ended up with 4 individuals staying with us from that class. And next week we have 8 individuals graduating from a class, all of which have said they wanted to work second shift, which is great because that's where our biggest need for LNAs are, and it's where our biggest agency use is. And we will be offering another agency class, LNA class in the fall. Or
Melissa, can I interrupt just for a second to ask, there's no agreement ahead of time that if they go through your program, that they have to stay with you for a certain period of time?
No, there's not. I've tried to work that through. I've talked to labor relations, and it's very complicated to make that happen. We'll just leave it at that because
Yeah, I guess that's too bad that you would go through all the trouble of training somebody and they wouldn't stay. I know some of the community hospitals have their own programs now, but there is that expectation. However, they don't work with state employees. So, thank you.
You're welcome. So slide 23 talks about our expense challenges, the recruitment. Probably one of mine and Steve's biggest pet peeves is the pass-through expenses. And I realize it's the budgeting piece, but other agencies, not picking anyone but ADS or HR, if they increase their expenses, they can pass them through to us. And we're kind of like a dead end when we don't really have any other place to increase, if our expenses increase that we can pass them off to. So we have to absorb that increase. So we have the 1115 waiver. This waiver, which AHS has applied for us, and if you have specific questions about this waiver, you need to ask them about it because they do all of the legwork for us. What Steve and I understand is this waiver allows us to obtain our actual cost for our Medicaid residents. This waiver is in place until December 31st of 2027. We anticipate that it will be renewed. The Big Beautiful Bill does state that when it is renewed, AHS must prove that the waiver, that we are providing care less than would otherwise be, who's the word I want, Stephen? That it's cheaper to do it via the waiver than if the federal government was monitoring the program. I think that's how I want to put it.
Yeah. The upper payment limit.
Upper payment limit, yes. Thank you. So if it exceeds the upper payment limit, we would lose this settlement money, and then it would result in us requesting a much higher general fund request. So Stephen and I are trying to determine what the current upper payment limit is, but it could be looking at an additional $4,000 to $5,000 request, at least at a minimum, of our general fund request if this goes away. We don't have any indication that that's going to be the situation, but we want to lay that out there as a potential option just in case.
4 to 5 million.
Yes. What did I say? Dollars? Sorry. Been a long day.
I had an asterisk on that.
Yeah.
A few pennies. Don't worry about it. So,
Comma 2.
sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
So knowing that the world is very tight and all the changes, both nationally, state, locally, we've been working really, really hard on how can we continue to reduce expenses. So we're making sure that we are doing the best to make sure that our expenses are in line with our daily census, working really hard with our supervisors, that just because one person calls out, right, stop, take a breath. Let's look at what our resources are. Do we really need to call in somebody, or can we move people around, or can we, access an administrative nurse to help fill in that gap? We eliminated our contract with our podiatrist because we have a wound care nurse, and our in-house advanced practice nurse have the ability to do the nail trimming that we were paying a podiatrist for. So we're saving money there. And then we'll be meeting with Doug Pine at Classification and Human Resources to talk about, is it possible for us to bring some of our other contracted vendors in as either full or part-time temp state employees and save money? You know, leaving no stone unturned, because some of our contractors are very, very expensive, and would it be cheaper to have them as state employees? I already talked about our LNA class, as well as the one-on-one supervision. We continue to watch that. Our admission and marketing, we're trying to maintain a budget of 90 residents. We were there the other day, and then we had 4 deaths in 24 hours. So comes and goes. You know, it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. We have a waiting list. Carolyn, our admission nurse, is working really hard to have admissions. We have one later on this week, one next week. So we are doing that. We continue to reach out to veteran service organizations throughout the state. We're very active in job fairs to recruit employees. And we have a very active activities department. If you're not following our Facebook page, I strongly encourage you to do that. I never know where I'm going to find my staff and our residents. They've been a little bit housebound because of the weather, and they're getting anxious. But this summer, they were at the movies. They went to the Saratoga Performing Arts Center for concerts. They went to Lake George for fireworks. They went down to Newburgh, New York, to the Purple Heart Museum. They have been everywhere. So we have them everywhere. And then we also have community events. We have this new annual summer carnival that the community comes to, our residents come to, our Father's Day car show. We do Wreaths Across America. So our residents are really busy. So you don't come here to get to sit in the corner and just wither away. We keep you very, very busy. And
After hearing that list, I want to come hang out and do excursions with you folks. Rep Coughlin had a hand.
Just curiosity, because you said you had a waiting list for new residents. How long is that list? What is the average waiting time or the length of?
so there was about 40 people on the waiting list, and it's predominantly for our memory care unit, which is our secured dementia care unit. So it's hard to say, because basically beds come available when someone passes away. So that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And
So-
I part getting that A wing back open again is very important to us, because that is really limiting our ability to admit.
So right now it could be years.
Yes,
some-
and I'm hoping not, because there is definitely a need.
Hence the $45 million construction project with beds that are still paying a tax.
Yes.
Right.
And the other thing, people or veterans or members coming in, they want private rooms, which, we do have a large contingent of private rooms on Cardinal, the memory care unit, but there are still some rooms that are semi-private.
And most share a bathroom, which is not conducive in a memory care unit.
Yeah.
So, questions for us?
Open it up to the table.
I'll just make a-
Please, Representative.
I just wanted to comment on thanking you for the invitations plural, to come and visit as a committee. And we do hope we will be able to do that when the weather is better. Sorry we couldn't do it in the off session. It's just really hard to get people together.
That's totally fine. And if you can't come down as a committee and come down one at a time, let us know. Nights, weekends, holidays, whatever. Be more than happy to show you around.
Thank you.
Works.
No, we really appreciate it.
Lunch,
What's that?
lunch is usually pretty good.
So, within the portion of the conversation around the forthcoming budget cycle. If you could send us a budget memo or budget request letter for us to use when we put our budget memo together for the appropriations committee.
Sure.
That would be a helpful tool for us once we start doing that work. Budget adjustment is happening very soon. So once that is gone through its process, we're going to jump right into the whole budgetary process with appropriations. So
Okay.
getting that will help us do our homework.
All right. We could do that.
Thank you. All right. Last call for our friends at the Veterans Home. Yes, Representative Hooper of Burlington.
Representative Morgan raised this question. I didn't know the answer to it. Is our cemetery still active?
Yes. Yep. So veterans who reside here and pass away here and have no other means of being interred are buried here.
Is the VA daily rate for veterans that have a rating only, or is it for any veteran who comes in?
So the basic per diem, the whatever is it?
145.
Yeah, that's for everybody. And then the 567 is for those that are 70% or more service connected disabled.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for the update. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you.
And we're here as a resource, and we will chat more soon. And yeah, just whenever you can get us that note on the budget process, we got time. I just wanted to say it early.
We'll get it to you as soon as possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
All right, Kitty, it's I went a little long, so we are moving into. Hello, everyone joining us in Zoom land. Melissa, good to see you again.
Likewise, sir.
So yes, we're moving on to AH 531, an act relating to creating a preference for military spouses and hiring into state employment. We did an introduction and a walkthrough on this. I did see the letter you sent, and I asked the committee assistant to post that for today's testimony. So we're just looking forward to getting your perspective on this proposal put forward by Rep. Stone and others.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melissa Willette, I'm the New England Regional Liaison at the Defense State Liaison Office. And we as liaisons represent the department and really establish relationships with stakeholders across the country within our respective regions on issues that negatively impact our service members and their families. And one such policy is military spouse employment. Because the spouse unemployment rate is sitting at roughly 21%. And that is significantly higher than their civilian counterparts. And like everybody else, our military families rely on two incomes to meet their basic needs. So we think that offering employment preference may be the difference maker when looking at ways that we can reduce the high unemployment rate among the demographic. But I think it's important to highlight that military spouses do bring a distinct talent to the workforce. And this really has an opportunity to create stronger pathways for employment for those military spouses. Due to the high demands of military service, I know Vermont doesn't necessarily have a tremendously large population of active duty service members. But we do have service members that PCS in and out of the state every 2 years. And because of that tempo, a lot of these military spouses don't have the opportunity to create their, or enhance their own careers and fulfill those types of demands. So this would offer a little bit more economic stability, both for the military spouse and the family as a whole. but happy to answer any questions that the committee might have, questions, concerns. I know my colleague Michelle Richard is here from the Midwest. She's actually the policy lead for this issue within our office. Each of us as liaisons are assigned a policy issue to serve as the lead on, where we're sort of the subject matter experts on this. But Michelle has actually had success with this policy priority in Nebraska. And I would like to highlight also New England is starting to make headway on this policy priority too. New Hampshire has enacted this legislation in 2025, and Maine held a public hearing on it last week, and it's going to get a favorable report out of committee with support from the Department of Veterans and Emergency Management and Financial Services. For what that's
No. That's definitely great information for us to have, because we are looking at this very, very attentively. Well, I want to move it along. And Rep. Hoover.
Hi, many of the things that you just stated, two income necessary, short-term employment opportunities, it's embarrassing to have our military have to go through that. The only thing that bothers me about this proposal is it places people in direct competition with veterans themselves for employment. You have any kind of history or representation about how that works out in the real world?
Are you talking about the preferential point system that could be
Yes.
allotted?
Yes.
I've heard that that question raised a few times in New England, and I can speak to Connecticut. It's something that we're working on there also. And they're looking at giving military spouses a reduced preference. So say disabled veterans get 10 points
Yes.
added to their preference, military spouses would get 5, so that competing necessarily isn't there, but a spouse would kind of have an advantage over the general population, if you will, if they meet the basic requirements of the job.
Well, the question actually is that gap that you just identified between the disabled veteran and the regular veteran who does not have a disability but has veteran service would then be on the same par, 5 points with the spouses. The original intent of this was to get veterans working when they came back from war. Now we're thinking of basically making it not a competition, but a lot more humans available to fill the spots.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that concern, sir. I think I would just say it's important to note that it would get the military spouse's foot in the door, say for an interview, to have that one-on-one conversation, and not necessarily the employer absolutely having to give them the job because they are a military spouse.
Okay.
Yeah, Michelle, feel free to jump in. Just if there's any background on what the other states' processes have looked like as far as the proposal that we have in front of us, structurally speaking, like I was saying a few moments ago, we have the intent of moving this. So getting your perspective is really valuable at this point.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Richard, Midwest Regional Liaison with the Defense State Liaison Office. As Melissa mentioned, I am her counterpart and the issue lead on this policy priority. So as you can consider this, as Melissa mentioned, Nebraska passed this bill last year. I cover Nebraska. Ironically, I'm also a military spouse originally from Nebraska. And one of the things that Nebraska did was they opened up their veterans preference to include military spouses. Similar to what Melissa mentioned, the point system is a little bit different than for the veterans preference. But they adopted 2 different ways of doing this. They had a public preference And they also created a permissive private preference. So that it allows private companies to establish a hiring preference for military spouses, just like they can do with veterans, without subjecting them to any sort of backlash. So what this policy looks very similar to what many other states are starting to do, as Melissa mentioned, up in the New England region as well. I'm happy to answer any other questions, and I hope that helped provide some context.
No, thank you. Any questions? We do have one more guest. No, seeing no hands. All right, moving on to our final witness, and excuse me, but Ms. Lejeune, am I pronouncing that correctly?
La Jeunesse.
La Jeunesse, okay.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to come in my personal capacity as a military spouse to share the challenges that are experienced by military spouses around the world. This bill is designed to address those challenges. So if you'll allow me, I'll introduce myself a little bit and share my personal experiences. I grew up in the military. My father served in the 82nd Airborne Infantry, working in signals intelligence. He was a native Spanish speaker and also was sent to the language school to learn Russian and Polish, work that placed our family in the middle of the Cold War era. Later, I married an Air Force officer who served in counterintelligence, and during his 22 career, we moved 14 times and lived in the Middle East on multiple occasions. Between 2003 and 2013, he completed 4 deployments to the Middle East. We have 3 grown children, and 2 are continuing the tradition of military service. And like many other military families, we accepted these frequent relocations, long separations, and uncertainty as part of our commitment to service. During those active years, employment for me was not always a straight line. Each move meant starting over. New job markets, new licensing rules, new employers, new professional networks. I routinely faced questions about gaps in my employment history, even though those gaps were the direct result of military orders and deployments. At the same time, I was deeply involved in community, school, and volunteer leadership roles at each duty station, often coordinating programs, leading teams, managing budgets, and supporting military families during their deployments. These roles were meaningful, demanding, and skill building, but they were rarely valued the same way as uninterrupted full-time employment. I didn't lose my skills during those years, but the hiring process often treated them as if they hadn't counted. One example that illustrates this instability occurred when my husband was deployed to Afghanistan. When his father's health declined, the Air Force granted a humanitarian assignment, allowing him to leave his 12-month deployment early and teach ROTC at Norwich University so that we could be closer to family. While that assignment provided family stability, it required another reset for us. That cycle of relocation, restart, explanation repeats itself throughout an active duty service member's service. This is the reality of H531. The bill does not guarantee employment and does not bypass qualifications. It provides a modest preference, 5 additional points, for military spouses who meet all requirements, pass point-based competitive examinations for state employment. That matters because even a small adjustment can help offset the cumulative disadvantage created by frequent mandatory relocation. It recognizes that military spouses are not less capable or less committed. In fact, we are often highly adaptable, experienced in leadership, and deeply oriented toward public service. Importantly, H531 preserves Vermont's merit-based hiring system, its collective bargaining agreements, and action standards. It levels the playing field without tipping it. Military service is not carried by service members alone. It is shared by families. Supporting military spouses during active service is a practical way to honor that shared sacrifice while strengthening Vermont's workforce. And for those reasons, I respectfully support H531. Thank you.
Brett Morgan.
Kristen, did you say you're married to an Air Force officer?
I am. He's retired now. But
Wise choice. Wise choice.
if you pass H43, we'll stay.
That's a great plug. Yes. We have a retired airman sitting at the table. We have an active airman sitting in the gallery. So
No prejudice in that comment whatsoever.
noted.
I got my poor Navy
Commentary with prejudice. Yes.
Navy over here.
Yeah.
Retired Army.
So well represented in the room, most of the branches.
Yeah.
Who's got a space force?
That's awesome.
Oh, God.
Have a little levity's good.
No, absolutely.
Great testimony.
So,
Yeah, well, that was, no, but it was great. Yeah.
no, bringing it back to the matter at hand. Yes, no, we plan on doing more work, figuring out what the goal is right now is we're identifying some skills that we want to continue work on so we can attempt to move them all at once. And this one is shaping up to be a priority for the committee. So, thank you very much for your testimony. And are there any other questions for our guests?
Good testimony.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate all of your time, all of your efforts, and all your hard work and service. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, and now that has us shifting gears to H555. We have the esteemed retired naval officer and our current Veteran Affairs, Government Affairs, Mr. Burke, Director of, I did that backwards. That was my dyslexia jumping out for a little bit. Care to join us, sir? We just wanted to hear from you on this one bill, and if you had commentary on the other one we spoke to, please feel free.
Hi, Robert Burke, Director, Office of Veterans Affairs, State Office of Veterans Affairs. I work quite a bit with Melissa. She is the newer, they reconfigured the districts a couple of years ago. So she concentrates more in New England, where it used to go down to Delaware, West Virginia. So we have a smaller Northeast district now. So I get the updates through her for DOD and what their priorities are. My understanding in terms of that 531, I mean, we don't have a numerical based hiring process. So to say, you get 10 extra points, you get 5 extra points on top of what? You know, we're not examining people for civil service jobs. So how do you apply extra, you know?
I had Rep. Ango, then I had Hooper.
So thank you, Mr. Burke. That was going to be one of my questions for the previous witnesses, Michelle or Melissa, but I wasn't sure they knew the answer. So I'm really glad you brought that up. So currently we do not administer as a state civil service examinations like, for instance, New York State does.
Or state employment, state government.
Thank you.
Rep. Hooper Burlington.
Period, to your experience. I mean,
To my experience and so if you read the HR guidance, it says that veterans get a preference. Okay, but how am I going to, just because they're a veteran, they get extra points, or because they have relative experience? So there's no, in terms of the contract, my understanding, I'm not a union person, but there's not a mechanism to say, okay, extra 5 points, extra 10 points.
we should bring somebody personnel in to see how relevant it is. It used to be.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody should come in and explain to you how.
It used to be that tests were administered for a lot of jobs, but now
No,
they
yeah,
move more to training and experience as a grid facility, and I don't.
I mean, so my experience is 2014. I didn't take an exam. We don't examine any of the people who have applied to my office or knowledge thereof of a requirement to do so.
They used to have typing tests, boom, 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 a lot of those things, that's disappeared.
Yeah, showing your age though.
Who would be a good office and contact for that?
Probably.
Labor
Doug
relations.
Klein.
Or,
I think he's the classification.
He's within Beth Vestigi's HR department.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, because it's still up on their website.
What's that?
It's still up on the state website that they are using a point system, hence this bill was proposed.
Well,
Let's send a note out and schedule some.
it says they're still using it, but how do I, if I have a veteran or if I-31 passes, I have a military spouse, I apply those points to what? Because we're not scoring, even when we do interviews, we're scoring, 1 through 5. And that's based on experience, education, et cetera, not, how well you did on the exam, and I'm going to throw you an extra 5 points.
Okay. Bob can continue with his question, then we're going Pisnall, Boyd and Hango in that order.
Supplement. It's all over the place, what states use.
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, take a test. If you're a veteran, the top 3 veteran scores go to the hiring agency. And they're obligated, unless they can find anything not to hire one of the veterans.
Sort of offer employment.
Yes. But Vermont has never, to my knowledge, had a very strong for the veteran, other than talking about it, putting it in a sign in the bathroom. Policy.
Pisnall.
So if we don't have an exam, then couldn't we also just take it one step further and say, okay, then if you're interviewing 2 people and one's Joe Citizen and one's Joe Citizen military spouse, and you don't really know which one to hire, you're gonna be leaning more towards, you're gonna offer it to the military one first.
Yes.
Without a point system, it's just that they have if somebody applies, people, then it would go to the military bank first.
That's essentially what Pennsylvania tried to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe I heard from legislative council that the state police is the only.
Just like it is.
An exam.
Wanted to clarify that.
Okay, which is good pull from previous testimony. Thank you for that, Representative.
I don't even think I know.
Representative Hango.
I just wanted to flag that when we do speak to somebody from Human Resources, that they understand that their website still lists something that's quite outdated. So Rep. Pincinel, if you want to maybe make a note of that, when they come in, we could ask them about that.
Sure.
I would actually have somebody from labor relations.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be a union issue in who gets preference for what reason. Just a suggestion.
There you go.
But is that Rep. Stone, is it listed on the Human Resources website? Not Labor Relations, it's actually Department of Human Resources, because we want to flag.
It's human
Yeah,
resources.
it's DHR.
Yeah, so we probably.
Department of Human
Yep.
Resources.
No, and I understand your point with labor relations on that.
Also,
Yes. That's not a
Because there's a
or,
page.
it's an and.
Thanks.
Super.
Because over time, it's been in the contract, and unless somebody puts a proposal forward, change it. It's also language in there that says if you're a current state employee in the job, and so when you get consideration for motion first before the public, which doesn't always happen either. It's a mess.
Here's an opportunity to tighten it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Bob.
Thank you.
glad I can be of help.
Good flag. Sir, glad we invited you.
Right behind you.
The Navy officers are good.
Tread lightly.
I'm gonna tap the brakes on further commentary. Okay, so I guess that's the conversation piece in and around the 531. But now for 555.
So
Please, yeah.
I watched last week's testimony. And so I'd like to understand better the motivation reason behind. I'm not clear because we have a disabled veteran license plate, which is the same, and it's the same qualifying information that you submit to get it as a regular placard or handicap plate. So I'm not sure I understand the goal.
So the intent within this is for.
I did read it.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'll defer to the bill sponsor if I may. Clarification.
Yeah, and I can also throw you in BL, but you have some good stories to kind of like better highlight all this common practice or not. Do you want to say your piece first, just to kind of like
Okay,
do a storytelling?
so what this talks about, okay, is with the license plates for disabled veteran. Well, Vermont standard for disabled veteran to receive a license plate is different than, say, New Hampshire. Okay. So you can be 100% disabled veteran. And if the bill is saying you can be 100% disabled veteran, then still not be eligible for those plates.
Correct.
That say disabled veteran. But the same veteran in New Hampshire with the same disability as you is eligible for disabled veteran plates. What is asking on this bill is that you can use metered spaces if you're a disabled veteran without having to pay the metered time. It excludes disabled veterans that may be 70% disabled but not qualify for that plate.
Correct.
So this bill, how do you distinguish? Because the Vermont disabled license plate has a wheelchair on it. You can't get that without
Right.
being.
So this establishes a physical limitation.
Yes.
An ambulatory condition.
Yes.
Where, the test is you can only walk or get yourself X number of feet, yards to the front entrance of a business store, et cetera.
Correct.
Sure, you can be 100% disabled through the VA and still be running track at 65 years old.
Yes.
So do you have an ambulatory condition? No. So my confusion is, how do you section out and do you put a percentage limitation? My concern is the degradation of this.
Correct.
Right. So we don't have DV plates as other states do. We have this or we have nothing.
Right.
Or you get a flag plate, you get a campaign plate, et cetera.
Right.
But none of that entitles privileged parking, closer parking, paid parking. Am I correct that any handicap placard plate in the state of Vermont can be free at a parking meter anytime? That was my assumption. Is that not the case?
I don't want to, I lean towards your opinion, but I don't know for certain.
I just always, not my opinion, I always thought that was the case.
Right.
Like you pull up in State Street, if you have a handicap placard or plate, pull up in a meter, you don't have to plug that meter.
Yes. And I don't know if that's like a regular practice or a law.
Town by town, yeah, I'm just curious.
I mean, it's definitely the right thing to do.
Right, because when you have two handicap spaces and you have 98 other spaces.
Yeah, logic would dictate, yeah. But again, I don't know if that's statute practice or, yeah.
A couple of years ago, I saw a placarded parking space that had a meter at it, which I considered to be weird.
Well,
Which would speak to
they
the,
finally took the ones down on State Street down here.
yeah.
2 years ago, so. But that's
not
just,
sure.
you know, so how do you set up? So this would, in my mind, this would stay the same. And the state would issue a DV plate. You'd have to convince DMV the need for, and you want to establish a DV plate. Okay, what are the percentages? Who's going to be the judge of you being able to get that DV plate? Right? Is it going to be my office where you're going to have to come in and show a summary of benefits letter that you get every year? It's, you know, for the property tax exemption, so it's 50% or greater.
Not sure.
Yeah, what is it?
It's a parking meter with a handicap symbol on it.
Oh, gotcha.
I think the main reason is because as somebody who works with people who are disabled, I think that the scope of what it requires to have a quote disability on a parking plate is too low. My patients who have PTSD, who have traumatic brain injury, who have other things that may not affect their ambulation or their vision, have reasons to park closer to where they need to get. And so I think it's the least we could do to expand scope, particularly for our veterans, to have the ability to park close to where they need to be. And I can tell you that as an occupational therapist, it's not just my patients who have had a total knee replacement that need to park closer to buildings. You have, you know, PTSD, for example. Some of my patients don't want to park in the back of the parking lot because it may trigger them. They want to park where they can see everything and they can be closer to the door of entry. And, you know, so that's just an example of like my real world experience working with some of our veterans here in the state who aren't going to qualify for what I think is a very narrow scope to get that disabled parking qualification.
I concur with your thoughts and your professional knowledge. I just, who's going to come up with that percentage? 50, 60? So it's 50 for the property tax exemption. It's 60% or higher for fishing and hunting licenses. You know, for the property tax exemption, if you're 100% permanent in total, you're a one-time filer. Everybody else is an annual filer. So, I mean, somebody's got to come up with the verbiage, a percentage based on, and who's going to confirm that? Who and how is that going to be confirmed?
I'm just making the notes.
Because yes, we hear it often that people, I just came from Florida and I'm a disabled veteran. I have a disabled veteran plate. Well, this is the disabled veteran plate in Vermont. And here's the doctor's form that you need to take and bring to your doctor, have it certified, and bring it back to the DMV. Nothing to do with us.
Different parameters.
Yes, same as a handicap placard or a regular handicap plate.
Yeah, no, and the different percentage thresholds that you were just citing, whether it be for like property taxes and or like fishing lists, those things, that was such like conversation from a long time ago. I forgot those even existed, right? As a different measure.
Yeah, why is it 50 for the property tax and 60 for hunting and fishing?
Right.
I don't think there's any.
It was a compromise at some point.
Yes.
25 years ago. Right?
Yes. All right, I got coffee and then I got Nugent.
This is just a commentary that what I worry about, because this is for parking meters and, you know, we're looking at for the parking fees. Okay. What I worry is that having people, and being a disabled veteran myself, I wouldn't use it to park in a handicap spot, but would you have somebody that doesn't need to park in a handicap spot using that plate to then park in a handicap spot just to have the closer
For convenience.
for convenience instead of actual need?
you make that plate ineligible.
And
For a
yeah, it
handicap
would have to
spot.
be a separate
DV
plate.
plate
DV plate
Does
would
not
be-
equal this for handicap parking, posted handicap parking spaces.
That's what would need.
That's-
separate plate.
Yeah, because you're,
Make it, to make it right so that
Yeah.
anybody that actually needs that handicap spot
Gets it.
Right.
wouldn't lose that ability.
that was my concern about the degradation of
That makes sense.
this.
I had Nugent and then Stone.
Questions.
You good?
I would say the beauty about this is that I heard this when I was at an NCSL conference, and a lot of other states in the room do this. So in Vermont, I think we get so tangled up in the weeds because we probably mucked things up, for lack of better terms. A lot of other bills making it like 20% for this, 30% for this, 40%, like, we're playing Price is Right or something, just throwing out numbers. But the good thing is like we can look to other states to see what they've done and model our legislation off of that. And then also recognize when other people come from other states and have a disabled veteran, like put that in the bill too. If somebody's visiting here, and they have a DV plate, let's let them park there. But I don't want to just like stop because perfect is the enemy of good, because a lot of states are doing that. And I will say that it felt really kind of silly for me to be sitting in the room with an NCSL and they're like, here's some like great bills that we're all doing, across the US. And I'm like, well, we're not doing that in Vermont. Like, this seems like a really low bar thing for us to do compared to some of the other bills that we've had to struggle to push through this building. In times past, like this, there's so many other states in the room to be like, yeah, we'll do it. This, like,
Do they have a spreadsheet? List of
oh, I'm sure they can give it to us. I'm sure we could reach out to NCSL.
Yeah, they're usually really good.
Yeah, but this was like a low bar one that a lot of people around me from blue states and red states were doing, and I was like, surprised we're not. But I just want to keep that in everyone's mind. We wouldn't be like first ones. Maybe one of the, late to the ball, one of the.
But no, I believe, if we're gonna do this, it should be a new license plate, a DV. And as far as the percentage goes, if you have a rating and you have the proof of it, you should be able to just bring that to the
Yeah.
DMV, say, I have the disabled rating and get the DV plate rather than one with the handicap symbol. And at least then the state is recognizing, we're making a recognition of the disabled veterans. And if there's a metered parking place and you can park in it without having to pay, great. But just recognizing disabled veterans the way other states do with the DV plate instead of a handicap parking ability. Just my opinion, my thoughts on it. But it would take a different license plate to do it rather than that license plate. But not take away that plate because that's important.
And what does that process look like? I guess that's like probably a better question for council.
We just asked for a license plate to be made to support soccer.
No, but I personally have never gone through a process for a license plate.
Yeah,
Has to
there's
go
a,
through transportation.
yeah,
Yes, please.
it goes through transportation.
Red water zones.
I'm confused about what's wrong with it as it's written. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Copy.
Because the way it's written for a veteran to get a disabled plate, all Vermont offers is this handicap plate.
Right.
You'd have
All
to
right.
qualify.
You'd have to qualify to be handicapped to get a disabled plate as a veteran.
A civilian's
A civilian-
definition of.
a civilian's
what that means,
definition
which is
of-
Different.
Disabled, but you can have a VA rating from 0% up to 100% for disability, be considered as a disabled veteran, but not qualify for that plate. This would be a recognition of disabled veterans by having a DV plate.
Okay.
there's a different way that they look at it
With no discrimination.
with no discrimination.
Hold on, I got,
No, I was
Rep
just-
Waters Evans gonna finish her question.
Yeah, I
I
guess-
got pissed on, hang on.
So the discrimination is against. Oh,
I don't see it as discrimination.
oh, okay. You said, so I was confused. So would it be possible to just add language to the existing criteria for the disability to include also veterans who have anywhere on that scale?
Disability rating of a certain percentage, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, or any disability rating at all,
Of-
depending on how, generous or inclusive.
So we include anything we want.
That's what Mr. Burke was referring to.
Okay.
Different qualifying thresholds as a percentage of whether it be for homestead exemptions on your property taxes or even
And I don't know
Okay.
I don't know the federal restriction on the use of this, if you can degrade its qualifications. So you couldn't say, okay, you have to have that medical form or a disability rating to the VA of X%. I don't know if then you can use that, if that is federally controlled.
So pissed off, hang on, Nugent.
So my husband was 100% disabled
Mhm.
because of his brain cancer.
Mhm.
He had all his both arms, both legs, but he'd fall down every 10 feet. So if I'd had a handicap sticker, which I did end up getting one of those placards, but if I had a license plate for a year and a half, because it took me a while to get that thing,
Mhm.
I could have just parked much closer and not felt guilty that I was parking without one, because I did a couple of times because I had to. But that's a classic, he was 100%, but he didn't
Right.
qualify for the ambulatory wheelchair
Mhm.
sticker.
Yep, and that happens more than you know.
I'm
Agree that.
Hang on, Nugent, Morgan.
I'm good now.
Morgan. She passed last time, she's angry.
Keeping her powder dress.
It feels to me that maybe, well, this is what I understand about what this bill would do. That in Vermont, we have a disabled plate for civilians. We also have a disabled veterans plate. Is that true? So all this bill does would extend parking privileges to people who have the disabled veterans plate in Vermont or from somewhere else. It doesn't, as far as I'm understanding, wouldn't require us to change the plate itself. It requires the privileges to go with the plate. Okay.
Yeah, but the qualifications for this plate,
It's a pretty high bar.
it's still a medical.
Yeah, but it wouldn't touch that, I don't think, right? Because it's just affecting the privileges that go with the plate we already have for veterans.
But I think they already apply.
But they already apply if you have that.
For this plate, I think it's civilian or veteran, the application is the same.
Mhm.
Now, if you just had a veterans, you want to extend it to anybody who has a veterans plate? That's a,
Okay.
that's a.
So we have two, so it's the same
Big bucket.
application for both.
Right, so that's why, speaking about a DV plate, so now you're creating another category, right? Veterans, disabled veterans, and DV
Mhm.
veterans.
Okay, that's not what I understood, I guess. It sounded like their veterans have a different threshold, or maybe we need them to or something.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
Carry the legislation. Sorry.
That's fine, that's fine.
Yep.
Over to Morgan.
I mean, so it sounds like if I'm hearing you correctly, Bob, it would do you immense good if somebody were willing to put into the legislation, if we were going to press forward a percentage that would align, give somebody that status so it wasn't nebulous, not when I say not fair to say nebulous, but it is a different bar to get that wheelchair symboled disability plate due to ambulatory conditions, as you stated.
Right.
And so
But if you.
that would take away some of that component to get into that, what I guess, let me, for lack of a better thing, call it the gray area of somebody being truly physically disabled versus not. You could, I guess you could, I'm just playing devil's advocate, just throw out that number of saying that you could encompass a greater group of people, whether that's, we agree or disagree, if that's good or bad. I don't know, just the thought. And then to further add to it, like Bob said, it may be worth, I don't, not certainly maybe within this bill, worth a deeper look or dive to go, is everything just one standard? The fishing license, yeah, at 60, the $40,000 tax exemption at 50, make it all like, pick a number, 50, 60, 70, whatever, I don't know. Is that worth? Because I think that's what you're struggling with, right, Bob? If I'm hearing you correctly.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna ask.
But be brutally honest, I'm not looking.
I'm gonna ask somebody to come to you with a different, similar issue.
Okay.
Hunting and fishing licenses, 60%. The legislation says certificate from the Veterans Administration.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got a Army retired on a disability, 60%, not rated through the VA. He cannot get a free hunting or fishing license.
Because he got it from
the military, because the legislation specifies certified by the Veterans Administration. So that statute needs another sentence.
So.
Say, or go ahead. A discharge retirement due to disability.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing that says that couldn't get done.
No. I mean, if we're going to continue to work on this, we might as well have continuity within the function of these.
That's what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
I think the fairest way is to create a DV.
Yeah.
And you're not touching this. And you're creating another category for disabled, specifically for disabled veterans, right? This person is disabled and happens to be a veteran.
And I believe Maine and New Hampshire, I've seen both have a plate that literally says disabled veteran on them.
Yeah.
I believe I've seen it in both states.
But to Representative Morgan's point, I would put a limiting percentage.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
A minimum percentage.
Yep.
Rating.
Because you got a guy at 10% tinnitus. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
make it at a threshold that's starting to get within what Bob is, I'm interpreting to say is within reasonable.
And it doesn't have to be only physical. It certainly should
be other.
No, it shouldn't be. No, yes.
This bill.
Absolutely.
You would be on that one.
Absolutely.
And I think most veterans would concur with what he's saying. They would go, I think that's and it doesn't have to be 50. I'm just throwing that out as a number. As my wife would like to say, I don't have a specific dog in that race in terms of where that's, so we got to come to that. But yes, I've always thought that was interesting that one was 50, one was 60. Well, random, I sort of guess.
Call archives, have them pull the tape.
Yes.
Repengo.
Notwithstanding the hunting and fishing license issue, because that just brings a whole new dimension to this bill. I think we should talk to Damian Leonard from Legislative Council, because he was for a very long time the military ledge council, and he is now the transportation
Correct.
ledge council.
What a convenient nexus of portfolio management in this particular conversation.
He could do a 101 on license plates, specialty license plates.
Damian would have I've worked with Damian a lot.
Yeah.
He would have the inherent knowledge of how things have come to be.
Yes.
You might know the specificity 100%.
He sat at the table and drafted the language for probably most of these thresholds. Representative Hooper.
I suppose this would be a bad time to bring up that you can't get a veterans legislature plate.
Oh, well, what?
Legislative plate.
Don't push your luck.
Slam a B right in front of it.
Wow, that just I had two connecting really Daisy that joke. Yeah.
I'll be okay without that.
Okay, good. I was like, that is.
Nice try, Bob.
Had a former legislators or just now?
Catch that under this
Are
bill.
we defining veterans for the purpose of that bill?
Yeah.
All right, enough crowd work at the table here.
But valid.
All right, we got a couple of things to noodle on with this one. Any questions for Mr. Burke while we have him in the witness chair? Nope. All right, thank you. Tango.
Wondering, since we don't get to see
You
you
almost had
very,
it down, Bob. Get out.
since we don't get to see you very often, do you have anything for us for future?
Oh, boy. Oh, since you
So,
asked.
since you asked, the email that you sent, from looking for support for Representative Sinna?
Yes,
Gina?
Gina.
purely informational. I'm not looking for support for anything and neither is the caucus.
Yeah, it's just,
So-
it's a psychedelic, so it's treatment for PTSD, TBI. It's a psychedelic,
Psychotropic compound.
psychotropic. It's from an African bush root.
No, it's different than so.
No, it's different than that. So the VA has done some test case and some research in psychotropics, but it's not mainstream. So it's not allowed in the US, it's not allowed in Canada. It is allowed in Canada, Mexico. International Olympic Committee has it as a banned substance. I looked up, if somebody wants, I have a paper from Stanford Medical that I was reading just before I came over here. They kind of watched.
Johns Hopkins was doing a lot of research on this as well in the last decade.
Could have been that. That's the one that popped up.
Yeah.
From July of 2025. So it's just an FYI.
So for people who are listening, this is purely as a courtesy for the National Guard and Veterans Affairs Caucus member to share with colleagues in an easy way, which was through email, a letter that was signed by a number of retired military and government officials in support of this experimental therapy. So.
Yeah, and I was going to reach out to my colleague in Texas to see what he knows about the reference to ongoing, not trials, but ongoing research in Texas.
And I believe Rep. Sheena is going to have a bill on it at some point. So this
Just
is
curious.
kind of an FYI. Thank you, though.
Cool. Anything else?
Thank you for your time, sir. It's a pleasure, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, that's a wrap for formal work at the table. We'll have that stuff moving around right now and no shortage of bills and email volume to work on for the remainder of the day. So we will do administrative office hours for the rest of our time in the building. Take us off, sir.